Welcome back, grade 11s. I hope you are well relaxed. Now let's look at our next concept, which is called selection. Now, the word says it all, that we are selecting. Now, as you can see from the picture, there is a person. Let's assume that this is the human resource manager. Then what do you think that the person is doing? As you can see, there are different pictures of people here, and probably there are information on their documents. And this person is going through these selected candidates or these potential candidates, and they are doing what we call a checklist. Now, selection simply looks at choosing now the best candidate for the job. Now, that's why it is said that selection is done after recruitment, where a business will receive many applications and then they will need to select the suitable candidate from those candidates. Now, let's look at the selection procedure. Now, I will remind you again that when we look at the selection procedure, we are looking at the steps involved with selection. The first step is that we must determine a fair assessment criteria on which selection will be based. In simple terms, the human resource manager must sit down and come up with a checklist to say that these are the kind of applications that we want to take. So maybe, for instance, the criteria will say that we are accepting application forms of people that have 5 years experience. The candidates must maybe be male or female. And then the candidates must be maybe between this age to that age. Now, we call that a criteria. And that criteria needs to be fair and according to the law. Applicants must then submit their application forms or their curriculum vitae and certified copies with personal documents. So when candidates have applied, and then we need to then sort the received CVs according to the selected criteria. Now, the business is going to receive a lot of applications, but because we have a criteria, we are able to sort them out according to the ones that meet the criteria and the ones that don't. We will then conduct preliminary interviews if many suitable applicants were received. So it might happen that out of the 1,000 that I have received, maybe 20 candidates meet the criteria. Now, it is going to be difficult for me to interview all 20 candidates. So what we can do is conduct preliminary interviews where you can invite all 20 to write certain tests. Now, out of those 20, only a few are going to pass the test, and then they can qualify for the next interview. The business must then do reference checks to verify the contents of the CV. Now here, the human resource manager will simply call your previous employers to check what kind of an employee are you, and then if you are good as an employee or not. And then they must compile a short list of potential candidates identified. Now, you might find out that after conducting your reference checks, you have found only 5 to be suitable for that position. You then compile a short list where you are then going to invite these shortlisted candidates for the actual interview. And then once you are done, you need to then give a written offer of employment to the selected candidate. So after interviewing those 5, you will then find the most suitable candidate, and then you need to offer them employment in writing. You must also inform the unsuccessful applicants about the outcome of their application. Now, this also differs from business to business. Some businesses will tell you in the interview itself that if you don't hear from us in the next 5 days, for example, then it means that you did not get the job. Whereas with other businesses, they will send you an email where they tell you that you did not make the cut. Let's then look at what interviews are. The meaning of an interview is defined as a purposeful conversation that takes place between the interviewer or the interview panel and an interviewee or the applicant. Now, as you can see from the picture, there are 4 people that are sitting, 3 on one side and 1 on the other. Now, this should tell you that this is the interviewer or the panel. So we call this the business. These are the people that are offering you the job. Then we have the interviewee, who we call the potential employee. Now, this is the person that is looking for the job. Now, it is very important for you not to confuse what interviewer and interviewee mean. The main reason for an interview is to determine a candidate's suitability for a specific job in an organization or a business. Now, it might happen that a candidate has very good records on paper, but when you get to speak to them personally, you find out that they might not be a suitable candidate for the position. So it is very important for you to have interviews where you can meet the person face to face and be able to interact with them. Now let's look at the role of the interviewer during an interview. Now remember that the interviewer, we said, is the business that is offering you the job. Now, what is their role in an interview? It says there that you must ensure that each candidate is allocated the same amount of time for their interviews. So if you have 5 applicants and you choose to give them 30 minutes, it means that all of the 5 applicants must be given 30 minutes. You must then ensure that members of the interviewing panel are introduced to the interviewee at the commencement of the interview. So we do not start an interview by simply asking questions to the candidate. We must firstly introduce all the panel members to the interviewee so that they can feel more relaxed. You must then make the interviewee feel at ease. So in simple terms, as you are introducing them, you are being friendly and showing that they can be comfortable. Now this makes them to relax a little bit so that they can be able to answer the questions effectively. You must then explain the purpose of the interview to both the interviewee and the panel. So it is very important that the panel must know why they are called and for what position they are called. Now, we must also make sure that we ask open-ended work-related questions. So you are giving the interviewee an opportunity to explain further on your question rather than giving them questions that require a yes or no answer. It is very important that you must not mislead the interviewee. So in simple terms, you must not give the interviewee an impression that they have already got the job in the interview. You must keep your questions professional so that the interviewee might not get wrong ideas about the interview. Very importantly, you must also provide an opportunity for the interviewee to ask their own questions. Now, the interviewee might want to find out maybe the working hours of the business, if they pay for overtime, and so forth. And then lastly, it is very important that the panel must close the interview by thanking the interviewee for attending the interview. Now, remember that in as much as the interviewee is looking for a job, as the panel, you are also looking for a candidate. So now you must thank them for taking their time to come and attend the interview, because without applicants, then it means the vacant position will not be filled. Now I need you to then think about it. Think of how is it that you can make the interviewee feel more at ease so that they answer questions effectively. While you think about that, I am going to close my lesson as this is the end for me. Remember to always stay shining bright so that you may be visible where you are. This is goodbye from me.